Interestingly, Rebecca talking about the computers, the old computers, my actual background, I used to deliver the IT element of HMRC systems, so SA Online, POE, and it's pure coincidence that I'm now talking to a group of, or the accountancy profession, which I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years. So, interestingly in this space, we've been helping with the tech adoption. So it wasn't anything to get involved really, the accountancy profession. We just saw the ecosystem. We got disrupted by building software on top of the likes of Sage Line 50, got disrupted, and we started working with accountants as a channel, really, to help deliver stuff. So everything I'm talking about today, I cannot help thousands of businesses. So this is really about an information session for you. But 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, sorry, I went around a lot of the firms, seeing how they'd done in terms of adopting cloud and new ways of working. So they might have said my target's 100 cloud accounting setups, and I go back a year later and they'd done 3. So my background would be transformation and project management, so I came into this space. So what I've been doing the last couple of years is working with businesses, with firms around digital transformation, adopting the tech, trying to get the most out of it. So I've done quite a few of the MTD sessions, so I've heard a lot of the different areas, but we're going to have a run through some of the things to think about for your MTD project. So we do cover apps, but I'm not really covering apps in here because I think you should really keep the app element to a minimum. There's some, as Rebecca touched on, some good apps that we should start with, and then we can build out once we've got those in place. So what I'm hearing from firms, that's really hard to see, but got a bit of a plan for MTD, but not confident will deliver, not making the most of technology, can't serve the clients the way we want to, staff aren't engaging and clients aren't engaging. So I am going to ask you to put your hands up, right? Which doesn't mean I'm going to ask you anything, it's just for a show of hands. So any of those resonating with you guys particularly? So anyone got a bit of a plan but not entirely sure it's going to be right? Okay, few hands. Anyone feel they're not making the most of tech? We're sort of being dragged into this world a lot as a profession. Can't serve clients the way we want to? Not quite as bad with that, okay. Staff aren't engaging? Clients aren't engaging? Oh, I should have this up. It's always the clients, right? So interesting one of the clients. We're going to run through that shortly because it is there's a real chasm between the type of business owners we're starting to see, and that's just due to the different backgrounds. And it's not an age thing; it's more of an open-minded thing, which we're going to touch on. But what we're going to do is, I don't know whether you saw these numbers. So Rebecca's touched on it, but there was 1.1 million businesses in scope, minus the 3.5%, which was deferred. ICAEW ran a survey back end of September, and these are some of the numbers. So you start, I'm not going to read them all out, but you extrapolate them up. It would say that like just under a 250,000 businesses have no MTD preparation, and a lot of those numbers are saying they're reliant on their advisor to get them through this. And Rebecca's numbers were around 85% filed through the portal. We've got around 20% of that is filed through the software. Now, this interesting thing about filing VAT, some of the firms I've worked with, we did an audit internally about how many were on cloud systems who filed VAT using the cloud system, and actually there was a high percentage who weren't. They had all the numbers, but they still went onto the 9 boxes and filled the 9 boxes in, looking at 2 different screens. So one of the things I would be looking at is audit your own existing cloud base to ensure that they are actually filing the VAT through that system. Okay? So what is the MTD process? So this is a process that I've done for the last two years. Who knows, hands up, who is confident that they have very good client data within their firm? Right. Who's not confident they've got good client data in their firm? Yeah, okay. So when it's good, it's we. When it's bad, it's you lot. So you lot are really bad at data discipline on practice management. Like, honestly, client data is really poor across the profession, and it's one of the main problems I think we've had with why we haven't seen an adoption in this space, because it's been a very reactive process. So one of the first things, I'm sure the future elements of MTD that come out are going to give us more criteria as to why certain clients will fit that iteration of MTD. If you haven't got good client data, set it as a #1 project to get good client data, but also good client data discipline. So what we don't want to do, every time there's a new MTD criteria come out, all the spreadsheets go around the office, which we're filling in to try and see how many clients we've got. We need to be pulling that report off whatever practice management system you've got. So definitely have a look at that. So it's a tough job, but I think it's definitely needed. And it starts to make a difference with how we start to talk to clients and engage with clients on what we're doing here. So what do we need to do? We need to understand all the clients, then identify the clients that are in scope for this. How are they currently managing their accounting methods? Need to capture that. What does the client need? Is the client using other systems in the operational space? Like I spoke to a business 3 weeks ago. They've got an old ambulance management system. Not a chance of putting that in the cloud, but they needed something to manage the financial control element. So they linked into one of the cloud accounting systems. So we're going to get a lot of that as we're going into this, where they've got an operational system which works, but we need to understand that as the advisors in this else are they working with, and what starts to become compatible. And then offering making tax digital solutions. If we understand the client base, we can make more informed decisions about what our solutions will be. Bridging software might be elements of it. Cloud software might be elements of it. Who is looking at, show of hands, you'll probably get achy arms, but we'll go with it. Who's looking at, who's using cloud offerings as their main solution that they're going to see for this? Yeah? Good show of hands. Anyone bridging software only? Anyone hybrid of those, right? Okay, that makes perfect sense. So we'll run into that. So what do we need to do with profiling clients? We need to, no doubt there's multiple data or spreadsheets that we've got on client data, so we need to bring those together. We then have to cleanse the data. We then have to understand the data, and we have to bring that data to life to make us think about how we're going to start to engage with clients. And then we're looking to analyse the client trends. So do we have certain sectors which clients are stronger in? Do we have retailers who are on spreadsheet that we need to think about how we're going to adopt those and how we're going to work for those? You can start to bring solutions based on the type of trend that you see in your client base. And what we tend to find when we look in the client base, I've got a slide a little bit later on, what we start to see is we've got some really good hints and tips in our own existing client base that we can use to start to dictate what we're going to do going forward. And I'll bring that to life shortly. So who has profiled their clients and knows the numbers for MTD for next April? Show of hands? Yeah, quite slow. It's okay, quite a minority in that, right? Who's got a plan? Who's got spreadsheets flying around the firm at the moment trying to get the data together? See, the spreadsheet will never die for as long as you've got to get these client data together, right? Perfect. And then we need to think about what the current accounting methods are, what else are they using, which we discussed, what do they use day to day, and what is the mindset towards change. Now, this is the main thing. It's not an age thing. It's their open-mindedness to change. So do you know the average age of the business owners of your clients? Yeah? Few have got that, right? Do you know the average age of the UK business owner currently? Anyone have a guess? 40 plus? 50? 51 is the current average age based on a survey by exactly yours, right? So you hit that demographic. So 51. However, with a survey that was done, a bit of a future, so I don't want to hit the numbers bang on, but what it implied that was in 8 years, the average business owner age would be mid-30s. Okay? So this is what I talk about, the chasm of treating clients equally, because they're not equal. So if that business owner is 51, their education, what they have worked with in the majority will be things like Lotus, Excel, because that's the type of upbringing we've had. I'm not quite 51, but I've had that upbringing. So, and this is a habitual change. They've always worked that way. That's the way we're working. So this isn't about an adoption. There are a certain age we can't do anything. This is just habits. And that's what a lot of change management is breaking the habits and forcing the break of the habits. But if you think of that business owner who's going to be 35, they're currently about 28, between 26 and 28. 10 years ago, they're at school. 10 years ago, we had the iPad, we had WhatsApp. So we're going to see this different type of demographic and this different way of engaging. So firm in the Northeast, they're now a trendy cloud firm, but 4 years ago, they weren't a trendy cloud firm. They were a very traditional firm. So I was talking to them when I was up in Newcastle, and they were saying to me, they had one of their oldest clients come in, plumbing company, pretty successful, 10 odd staff, 11 odd staff. The father was giving it to the son, and the son was taking over, right? They showed them, keep agnostic, a cloud accounting piece of software and some expense capture software, okay? And they were blown away. That's a game changer. That's going to save us so much time. Why wouldn't we do this? 3 hours later, they have a newbie come in, mid-20s, shows them that's how they're going to be doing things, absolutely nonplussed. Why wouldn't you do it that way? So this is the different engagement we're starting to see now, the expectation of who we're doing it. And this isn't an accounting problem, this is societal. That 25, 26-year-old is dealing with Amazon, Google, it's just the way life is. So we do need to think about how we're approaching. So if you understand your client base, you understand the demographic, the way you may nurture and start to onboard people will be different based on their mindset. It's not an age thing, it's their mindset. Firm last week, went to see them, they had an accounts junior, typing stuff in instead of using expense capture software, and the average age of that partnership was like 30. That was just what they wanted to do. So it's not an age thing, this is about a mindset and a way of working and breaking habits. So looking at your client base is really important. So is things to think, then look at, once you understand your client base, is the current count method compliant? Is the client after more up-to-date information? Is that client going to be open to receiving more regular data, understanding that data in a more frequent manner? And does the client use an operational system that we need to think about linking in with or having some sort of data and understanding what that might bring? Because what we're starting to see now is we're starting to see where people are looking at KPIs from what their operation business is doing, but also the financial viability of the business as well. Okay? So just things to think about there where we're starting to see this operational world start to merge with the financial world somewhat. So it's really interesting. So I'm a cloudy person, very much so, but I also see the complexities of businesses who have built businesses on spreadsheets. This is not going to be something that they can easily move. So there is cloud accounting software, more interested in more up-to-date data, more collaboration with their accountant or advisors we're starting to see, and thinking about the linkage or moving their operational system from spreadsheet onto cloud-based systems. That's the world we're going to see. But there is also businesses who have been built up on complicated spreadsheets. That isn't going to be something that's going to be achievable in moving by April next year. So there is going to be these places where we understand this is the complexity of the business. We need to think about bridging software. We're not going to get away from that. So I honestly think reviewing what your clients are doing, how they work currently, that will start to give rise to what they need to, what type of solution they need to do. So just think about the holistic business when you're talking to them and the questions you may bring. So once we know the client base, we've got two methods here. So we have something called a PIA radar, pain in arse radar. So you've obviously all got them because you all laughed. So there's no doubt, especially with firms that have been around a while, we've attracted lots of different types of clients. They may have been compatible at one point, maybe they're not compatible now, okay? So the client score is 5 to 1. 5 is high, 1 is low. 1 is a classic, the email comes in, the phone call comes in, no one wants to answer the phone, no one wants to respond, or you leave it till last thing on a Friday to respond so you can have 2 days not worrying about it and a couple of bottles of wine to get ready for it on the Monday. So that's the first part, and that's quite a standard set of criteria you've probably got for your clients. Whether you know it in your head or whether you've got it written down is entirely different. The second part now, this is where we are finding firms getting burnt with this conversion across, right? So what we do is we go in, we treat every client the same. So we don't assess the client up front. And this may be, they're on really complicated systems, so moving them across to cloud is going to be difficult, or their mindset isn't open to the change. So understanding the type of client that you're dealing with means that you can start to really bring a process together of how they're going to fit in. So what I mean by this is, it could be that you've got a great client, pays fees on time, very good fee return, but they're sat on Sage DOS and getting them across becomes a problem, okay? You need to be thinking, how are we going to convert those? They wouldn't be a top client. They're a brilliant client, but they're not a great conversion. Alternatively, what you can start to bring to life real-time pain in the arses. So what do I mean by that? They're a score of a client score 1. They're an easy conversion from a spreadsheet or whatever into the cloud. But then they start ringing every day because why haven't you reconciled my bank? Why is my bank feed not working? How do I change my logo? They're on forever and a day to you. And also, don't forget, these vendors now, the software vendors, are bringing other elements into the systems which aren't around accounting. We're getting projects coming in. we're getting quoting coming in. You're going to be dragged into software support. So you need to be thinking about that as well, because this isn't, you're going to be getting calls around, you want the calls around the accounting issues to have the discussions. But do you want the call about how to change a logo, or how to change it from red to green, or how to change my address on this? Because the online support's pretty good in the majority of those, but you become that first hurdle. And if you're really helpful, which most firms are, and you can answer the question in 2 seconds, it's still quicker than 2 minutes on Google or wherever else. So be mindful of that if you're starting to adopt cloud. You are slowly getting dragged into a software support, and you need to start catering for that, okay? So what we start to look at here, the client score 5, the conversion complexity is 5, which is good. That means they're a 25. And if we start putting things on like their year end or the quarter end, we're going to move them, we can start to make sure we're spending the right time on the right clients. Because what tends to happen is when firms get burnt is they do a client score of 1 and a conversion complexity of 1, and they lose the will to live, and I'm never going to touch cloud again. I hate it. And it's nothing to do with the cloud, it's to do with how we've selected it. Who's been burnt by conversions to cloud? Hands up. No one yet? Yeah, you have. Okay, so thinking about your clients, understand them, but also how do we start to speak to clients about what they're currently doing, and is this going to be a simple conversion? Is there any questions around any of that? Anyone implementing anything like that? Oh, yeah, sorry.
You mentioned bridging software.
Yeah.
Do you foresee it being an issue, say clients are happy with the software, they've got old versions of Sage or bespoke software? Are they going to be able to convert from that to the bridging software?
If they can get an export out, what do you think, Rebecca? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how far you mean they go back, but I've known a few going back a long way. But if you've got a facility to export CSV, then you should be fine. You should be absolutely fine.
Yeah, what we're also seeing, and Rebecca, is we're also seeing the integrations where it comes out the operational system and then it goes into one of the cloud systems. So we start to get that sales and purchases across.
We've got plenty of older clients that don't want to pay £60 a month for new software when old software works.
Yeah. Yeah, so interestingly, if you think of that, that average age of business owner, okay, 51, also we are primarily a spreadsheet based. We don't move quickly in the tech space. We really haven't at all. And it's because, in all honesty, we haven't really had the opportunity to move. You got on a system, there wasn't a mass load of other options to go to. So then it gets ingrained, and then it's habitual that we're using that system. And then we've got to change the habit, and it's a bigger move. So we should never underestimate that, how they run their business. And we'll get more and more of that. But obviously the issue is that a lot of that desktop software now, the operational, not the accounting, that's becoming unsupported. They also have a problem, those vendors, in that they need to move to the cloud, but they maybe don't have the client base to make it worthwhile. So it's going to be a real interesting space to watch those older systems not move forward, and what do we start to do with that. I went to see a business in very local to me in Shropshire, and they had a system that was written by Cousin Paul in 1982. Cousin Paul now lives somewhere else outside the UK, and he has to fly in once a quarter to do something on it. And it's on this, talk about a steaming old system, it was a steaming old server, but their whole business is on that. They know it's a single point of failure, they know it will go at some point, but they're prepared just to let it go. We can't change that habit. That's what they see as the value. They just hope it's going to keep going, but they'll be forced at some point to do something. Okay.
Does your client conversion score, other firms apply that? Does that kind of become a classic bell curve? Is everyone seated in the sort of 10 to 15 score, or? No,
not really. There's a lot of 1 to 6s, and I think you've got to ascertain the 1 to 6s. Like, are they clients who are now compatible with where you want to go? So it's really interesting. Rebecca was saying that this is the way we're working, this is how it's got to be, and if you don't like it, you need to work with another accountant. I think that strength of message has got to resonate across the profession. It's your process. They need to work in with that process, and it's that way or not anything. Because they will go and find a receipt bank equivalent for £1 a month and start wanting to use that. But there's no efficiencies for Rebecca or the firm to do that. So you do need to be thinking around the quality of client and the type of client you want in the future. They need to follow your guide. Yep, sorry.
We're finding that most of our time is taken up training clients to use the software, which is non-billable, well, we're not billing at the moment. Are you finding that any other practices are billing for that training
Yeah.
time, or how are they managing that?
So let me come, I'll cover that early, right, because it's a good question. Cover it at the end.
Half time.
Half time, right, thank you. So let's start from off. Who charges for a conversion, especially to cloud at the moment? Who charges? God, you lot, I ain't going to them. No. Okay, so we've got the numbers there, right? So what we are seeing, and it's not necessarily the charge, but it's applying a value to what you're offering, right? I think this is what we need to think about. So the average charge at the moment in the UK for moving from non-cloud to cloud, including some training for a standard conversion, is between £550 and £750. Anyone charging that? You're cheap. £450. Ah, yeah. That'll be £550 tomorrow then. So the average charge at the moment is around £550 to £750. Now, I'm actually not concerned about the charge. I'm actually concerned about what you're giving in that conversion.
So we do sit and train them, you know, this is how it works, this is what we'll do, this is
Yeah.
what we'll do, and this is what you'll see, and then
Yep. So one of the things to think about though is if that training is, you're going to quickly scope exactly what system they're on, you're going to move the data, you're going to get them set up, get the bank feeds running, link in anything else you need to, some training, this is the reporting, that's around £550, £750 at the moment, right, across the UK. Now, but the thing to me is, if you don't want to charge and it's not in your business model to charge, you should still say what they're getting. So this would normally cost 300 quid or whatever it is, but we're giving it for free because you're a good client. There should still be an element of, this is what you're getting. Otherwise, it goes on forever and a day. And it's HMRC and the firm are seen as, you're making me do this, so actually it's on you to get this right. There's no buy-in from the client, okay? So you've got to set the expectation that this is valuable, even if you're giving it for free, for the relationship, that we would normally charge this and you're getting a 100% discount. But you should say this is a package of conversion that you're getting. So you're doing the training. Have you got lots of clients to train?
Yeah, we've moved about 150. We've got about another 40% of the
Okay.
smaller clients to move over.
And it's,
We're doing all right, but it's the constant, we kind of, you engage them at one point, get them on the software, then it's another phone call for them to log in, then it's another one to get the bank feed, then it's another one to show them how to put the sales invoices on, then they come in, then we've got a little training room set up now, and you know, and then we've got one girl who's kind of doing that full time. It's becoming a real another part of the job where you kind of need to sort of champion to do it, which is a wage,
yep.
and you're not billing for it. It's sort of
So-
difficult to manage it like that.
So training if you're going to give us some sort of conversion training, like minimise it, say it's an hour and two, we're going to cover these core bits. If you want more, it's a chargeable element, right? In any other world, if I go to software training, I get charged. It's a chargeable thing. So if you're giving that training, the other thing just be mindful of, if you've only got one, you've got a single point of failure. You know, so when they fall down and break their ankle off the curb and go missing for 2 months, you're stuffed.
No, they're all, but kind of, it's going across the practice in terms of staff training as well, but then again,
Yep.
that's another non-billable
Are you doing one-to-one training?
with clients.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so this is another one for you. If you've got a big client base to move, look at one-to-many training. Now, your good clients, you might say, are worthy of one-to-one, right? Your average clients, it's like, can you get 6 to 8 businesses in a room? If I've seen training, but this is where you're saying no, but
Well, I know it's a good idea, and we've had that, you know, to get people in and sort of have a little, but I don't know, it's
so
organising, I suppose that's our fault.
So, yeah, it's not your fault. It's just a different way of thinking, right? So what I would say by this is if you say to clients, this is our model, we do the conversion, you come in for the training session with 5 other businesses, they don't know any different. We know we can do one-to-one, but they have no different. This is our process. We can take them through it. So what you start to do is you bring in 6 businesses. They create their own little community. One of the firms I'm working with, they've just started a Facebook group with everyone who's been in for training to create a community around what they're doing. So there's self-helping. So you can do it differently, but we automatically default to one-to-one for everything. And you can change that because you need to reduce the capacity of doing this. You're dead right, it's a massive overhead. And if the client's not getting it after 2 hours and we keep giving free time, they're never going to come into it. There's no skin in the game for them. I'll just keep getting the free training. I'll keep getting the free support. So you've got to cut that off and give a parameter. Right, I'll carry on because we're going to cover some of it anyway. So this here, this is a, and there's lots of different systems, but this is a visualized piece of data, right? So this is a firm up in Preston, anonymized data. That's the staff actually for me, not them. But what was interesting, talking about understanding client data, I went to see them and they said, we are a massive, manufacturing is the key. And we were like, yeah, Northwest, sort of makes sense, can see why that would happen, right? But what we did, they said, have you got good client data? They lied to me and said yes. They said, we'll get the data in 3 weeks. 6 months later, they got me the data. But what we did is we went through that conversion and client quality scoring. Now, interestingly, this is scored, right? This is scored. You will see the industry at the top there is actually retail. So yes, they had the most volume of clients in manufacturing, but the actual quality of clients in retail, and not one retail specialist in there. So what do they do now? They're starting to look, because we've got the client data, we know which clients are in retail, which clients are on Excel. They're now offering, if you're in retail and you're in Excel, we need to do something for MTD, and they have a session with those people. All the people come in, it's relevant to them. So you can really start, but we have to, there's a big job getting the client data right, but it gives you so much more in terms of engaging with the right businesses in the right manner, rather than the general MTD breakfast, which has the baker, the retailer, the manufacturer, the hotel. It's really hard to be relevant to them. So think about your client data and understanding that. There's a range of systems that will start to bring this data to life, but ultimately it's on you guys as firms to get that data right and keep the ongoing discipline. So just on that, the top one there, that's the client partner with their year ends. And then we've got their industries, and then we've got their software types. So the basics that we can start to see who's affected when and how we're going to engage with them. So just thinking about your clients, that's very clicky. If you've got 50 clients, 10 are compliant, we've got 40 convert, we've got 5 months left, we can start to work out we need to do 8 conversions a month. These are stats you should start to have everywhere, so it becomes everyone's issue. It's not the cloud person's issue in the firm, this is a firm-wide issue we need to sort. But one thing you should also look at, if cloud is one of the areas you want to take them, how many cloud conversions have you done in the last 2 years? So we would look there and say we've done in the last 12 months 20, we've only done 1.6. So we've got to be almost 5 times better in terms of how we convert clients. But you need to start tracking these metrics, and your old ways of converting will show you how you can do that. But this is the key bit as well, actually, right? That is very clicky. So 105 working days left till MTD, April the 1st, okay? We've got to move the numbers there, but how long will it take you to convert those clients? What's the capacity? So we ran some think tanks, cloud accounting, agnostic, back in March, April, with about 40 firms who had delivered thousands between them of cloud conversions. Their average time was between 8 and 11 hours. Now this was demonstrating the one-to-one scoping, doing the conversion, the one-to-one training. So understanding that number for yourself, how long does it take us, might give rise to either a charge or even an understanding of the value of what you're giving, but also your average. Because if you start bringing add-ons and integrations, that 8 hours obviously goes higher. And some clients you'll get across in 2.5 hours, they're open-minded, take it straight away, great, you're moving on. But just understand your own numbers. And obviously I've got like the bridging software in there. I don't know yet, we've not seen the bridging software to understand how long it's going to take, but if that's a couple of hours, you've got a couple of hundred clients, that's 400 hours of time to think about. If you're going to be taking them through it, or whether they need the support with that. So understand how long this is going to take you and how many clients you've got. And what we're also talking about here, we're only talking about existing clients. What about the prospective clients who come knocking the door sort of post-January asking for some help? Can you take that capacity when they come on? So do you charge to make a client MTD compliant? We've already had that discussion. So if we had implementation and communication process, so it's interesting, we're waiting for sort of HMRC to give the comms out to the people who are in scope. But has anybody done their own communications as of yet? Hands up? Yeah. Has that been one form of communication, like a letter or an email, or has anyone done multiple? Multiple. It's quite low. Okay. So this is an interesting piece, right? So we had a firm in Plymouth who were an MTD session that we ran. They sent 250 letters out and had 3 people respond. So I read the letter, okay, because it is really important about what we're putting on the letter. So I think what I've seen, the majority of letters that I've been sent out, whether it's newsletter, email, it's all very accountancy, fluffy VAT change. One firm in East Anglia, all they sent out was red writing saying, I don't often send you something that's really urgent, but in the next 2 weeks I'm going to call you. Can you please take the call? It's very important. That's all they sent. They didn't say the VAT's coming, MTD is going to change, blah, blah, blah. They just put a real call to action, I need to speak to you. They had a much better rate. And actually people started calling in because it was red and thinking, what's wrong? There's a problem. But we've got to be really structured with the message that we're giving. I need to speak to you about something urgent. I can't wait. Because if I'm giving you these capacity hours, what happens if the client says, yeah, thanks a lot for that for MTD. I know I should be moving end of December. I'll leave it till March, thanks. What if all your clients say that? We have no capacity to do it, right? So we've got to be structured with the messaging. So in this space here, list of clients, if we've got the list of detail, if we've done at least client rating or complexity rating, then we can do a comm schedule. So I know that these people are good clients, relatively good conversions, and their year end is here, I'd like to proceed them. Or you could move them at quarter end, of course. So, MTD info sent and expectation set. So a bit like that firm in East Anglia, just the red writing, I just need to speak to you, and they're doing it face to face. Other firms are doing a combination of when clients come in, they mention it, they send the email, they do the newsletter, they do the normal letter, and they do the telephone call. Because all the mediums need to happen. You send that one letter, it was interesting, it's gone on the thing, a new order's come in from that for the client, it's old news. Not that important. So think about that. So in MTD information sent and expectation set, the MTD conversion scoping sounds grand, but if you on your system you've got them on Excel, are they still on Excel? Have they moved in the meantime? Has something changed? It's just understanding what they're currently on and just reiterating that you understand what they're currently working to. Then you're thinking about setting the date for the conversion. Do they have to do anything? Do you have to do anything as a firm? Making sure you know what those actions are, and then you're committing to a date that post that date we'll be doing the conversion, and then I've got to get you in for training and the like. Okay. Any questions around that? Are we sending these slides out? Yeah, so you'll get a copy of these, yeah. Just see, not taking a picture of me, I hope.
One thing that it's more a question. Has everyone sort of done the call for the self-assessment records yet? Yeah. Because I think that's quite a good one to put your, by the way, when we've done the tax return, we're going to need to come back and talk to you about VAT. You know, there's an opportunity. You've missed that one for that particular message. We have a question.
Did it in April, yeah.
So, wait, Abby's.
With you saying about like the opportunities, we've sent like a Make a Tax Digital like help sheet or fact sheet with every engagement letter after the year end since March, and that will take us up to when it comes in. So that's like if you have missed the self-assessment thing, that's quite a good way of sort of engaging, getting information across.
Yeah, it's good. Okay. So when you're asking the questions, all of you will ask questions of the client. It'll just be in your head, not necessarily a written down fact find. If there's multiple of you doing this, it's better to have a uniform way of asking the questions. So when you come back in, all these 5, 6, whatever conversations can all be reviewed the same, so you can start to spread the knowledge internally, right? Because you'll all ask individual questions and it's roughly the same, but about 20% will be different. So thinking about, is this a cloud or bridging, or is it a complex type of delivery? Who's going to be doing the cloud conversion? Who's going to be doing the bridging conversion? So, but it all starts with a uniform fact find when you're talking to clients. Am I going to be asking the same questions? Is everybody in this firm going to be asking the same questions which are relevant to us? The worst one I've seen fact find is they had about 8 different divisions and it had about 59 pages. No one ever filled that in or ever answered it. But keeping it concise, limited to this area, you can get some good information back. Has anyone used a fact find? Or everyone use their head fact find? Head fact find. It's all in our head, right? So this is an interesting one, and it ties in what Rebecca was saying about this world. So processing data, if you're going down the cloud route, okay, so it's the Xeros, the QBOs, Sage Business Cloud, all that type of thing. Is everyone using those types of systems at the moment? Hands up. Yeah, okay. Who's using receipt captured data, expense captured data next to it? Yeah. Right, it's quite a slow. So this is a really interesting space. So cloud accounting, I'll use Sage and Receipt Bank for want of a better word, right? Just for this, if you've got 100 Sages, you should be monitoring how many receipt banks you've got linking in with that. Okay? So what it should be close to a 1-to-1 ratio. Because if we've got 100 Sages and we've got no way of bringing the data in, we're likely doing for 100 of those Sages an element of manual work. We need to reduce that as much as possible. Okay? Ideally, it should be about an 80% ratio. So if you've got 100 of those cloud accounting, at least 80 should be working in that manner with you, because there'll be reasons why certain clients can't use that, and I get that, right? The average at the moment is less than 20%. So 20 out of 100 are only using this. And so if you're looking at that as a KPI internally, keeping an eye on that number, making sure they are growing closely together. Because what starts to happen is we can start to talk about the data if we have more frequent and regular data. Okay? Like, this advisory world isn't brand new. I'm sure you've all been advising different guises for many years, as long as you've been in the career. But what this does mean is more up-to-date data to be talking about with the clients. But we need to be improving that as much as possible. It's a real low point at the moment where we have that still a lot of manual elements linking in with cloud. And as Rebecca says, if you haven't got the bank in place and you haven't got a feed of data coming in, like, what's the point in having it? We could have stayed on the spreadsheet. So we've got to make this, use the efficiencies it brings. So this is what I call the platform. So your platform should be one of those two systems. So one where you're processing the data, you've got the bank feed coming into something like Xero, QBO, Sage, and then your receipt bank, auto entry, HubDoc, Data Molino, those type of systems. That is forms the platform for your cloud accounting. Okay? Any questions around that? And that's the first time, actually, Rebecca's words about charging them 30 quid for not doing something, that's the first I've heard of it. But again, talk about getting people, setting the expectation of what we're going to do. This is our business. This is the process we need you to follow. You must fall in with it. It's great. So we need to be really strong with the messaging. So at the moment, I don't know, it depends what size the firm we are, but one of the things we start to see is this cloud champion, cloud team, cloud person. They don't get much information. So what happens is they go, I've just spoke to this bloke called Matt from Blue Hub. I think he likes the look of cloud accounting. Can you go and have a chat with him? So we have to ask more questions of me at the initial point. So it might be maybe the partner's gone out, seen me in the pub or whatever, or a networking event, have a chat with them. But I might hate HMRC, I might hate digital, yet we would go and spend an hour, 2 hours with them trying to convert them. We can't convert people. You know, so what we have to do is when we're getting the initial information, it's asking them enough to make sure they're going to be a good lead or a good prospect to convert across. We can't assume that everyone's going to be equal on that. Yeah. So you could have landing pages with videos. Most of the vendors now will help you have landing pages so people can qualify themselves a little bit more. I've had a look at that. Looks like I could use it. Yes, I'll have a conversation. And also thinking about the client quality. If the client quality, if they are worthy of one-to-one time, your time is going to be really precious. If they are worthy of your one-to-one time, allow that. If they're not worthy of your one-to-one time, they go into a different type of process, which becomes the group process. Now, I know people think, oh, I'm not sure about the groups. We have seen the groups work because the majority of that training is left to right, follows the same thing, but the last half an hour to an hour is the individual scenarios for that business. So what those firms now have started to do is say, well, I'll have a 3-hour session. Just to let you know, Matt, I've signed you up, and our next session is the 15th of November. You'll be in for that. And we're going to have 5 other businesses in. And how it runs, the first 2.5 hours is a standard set, which can be delivered by anybody who knows the software. The last hour, we bring in some of the experienced people who know the different scenarios, and they come and add the value at that point. So these people don't get stretched so thin. So just think about that, because as I said before, the client has no understanding of how this process works. We just default to it's always got to be one-to-one. So be mindful of that, okay? One firm down in Southwest, they put these on and they charge more for external clients to come and do it, because some people are self-selecting these systems, not getting the training. Lo and behold, they go to a firm, they pay the money. Over the next 6 months, they start to become clients. So it's a lead generator as well, offering these types of training sessions, okay? So the other one to think about, we touched on it, post-MTD support. So you're getting dragged into a software support as well as an accounting guidance and advice type of provision. So this is how I would look at it, right? When you speak to the client, speak to Matt at Blue Hub. Just to let you know, Matt, while we give you the 3 or 4 weeks free training, free time to support, we're going to be assessing you to see how much of a pain in the arse you are. You obviously don't say that to me. But what that means is you start to say, at the end of this, we're going to be saying to you, we've got 3 options of how you can work with us. 1, we don't want to charge you. We do not want to charge. We want to bake it in the fees, and you're very self-supportive with the great online resources that our software delivers, okay? The second one is you need a bit of help still after the training. So we'll just put a 30-day rolling retainer in, 50 quid, 75 quid. You can call us a couple of times, whatever. Put a parameter around it. The worst one is, Matt, you're a complete pain in the arse. You keep ringing me all the time about everything. You never self-help. That'll be 250 to 500. And all you're doing is you're getting in the mind of the business owner, I am assessing you for the next 3 weeks. They start thinking, right, I don't want to pay 500 quid. I might spend 50 quid, but I'd rather be in one. And they start self-helping. But what you've got to do whilst they're doing that, if they're not ringing you and they're ballsing up the cloud system, then you need to be looking at the cloud system to check, I need to ring them, okay? But just think about that, because for these cloud systems are going to be bringing on more and more non-accounting functions, which is going to fall on your remit, okay? Any questions around that?
Any questions, generally?
Yeah. Right, so quick one. Where firm should be. Understand the current firm position. Pick your platform. Understand your client list. What's your engagement plan? How are you implementing? And think about the dashboard. So the dashboard is, this is a number we're tracking. This is how we're getting on. This is the progress. That should be visual to the whole firm. It's the firm-wide problem, not the cloud champion, their problem. Okay, any questions in general, guys?
I just, if I duck past John, I think one thing I'd just like to add to Matt's talk, which is absolutely fascinating, is that for my small practice, because I'm small and building, what I've said to my clients is, look, actually, you do, at the moment, your VAT returns in an exercise book. It's one client specifically. And it's a bit of a mess, and I didn't say that. And it takes us then quite a time to sort through all that and do his accounts. So the way I pitched it at him is, I've got a new thing. I'm not going to charge you for it. This is what you'll need to do. You'll need to raise your invoices in it. I'll charge you the same fee, and I know I'm going to make more profit. So I'm prepared to spend a bit of time and get him over onto the cloud, because I'm investing in the future of my firm. Now, that's probably because most of my clients are manual, because they're all very small clients. They're all on bits of paper. I've got one who does VAT returns on unlined paper, not even 8 column, but unlined. It freaks me out completely. The numbers go. So when I'm getting people like that onto the cloud, I know that my life's going to be a hell of a lot easier, and therefore I don't really need to do a hard sell. I say, look, I'll take all that off you, because you don't like doing it, do you really? So we'll bring all that in-house. We'll charge you the same fee, but I know even after paying for a license, I'm still making more money. So that's the way I've done it with me teeny tinies. Everyone I now take on, that's the deal. You come to me, it's going to be monthly billing. If you're a startup, I'm not billing you for 6 months. That'll give you a bit of a run at it. It's going to be monthly billing. I don't have to raise invoices. My software raises the invoices. You go on a standing order. What's not to like? I'm a very happy bunny. So yeah, that's how it's working at my end of the market. But yeah, I don't envy you.
Just one thing as well on like auto entry and receipt bank, we see a lot of firms pick those up and then dump them quite quickly. In all honesty, the reason they is they're not day one efficient. So you don't get the efficiencies for about 2 to 3 months. It's like an 8 to 10 week cycle. So you have to keep training that. You will if you use it all the time, but if you use it sporadically, it will not see that it's that efficient as just doing it manually. But over the time, as it learns, as it gets more suppliers in, it starts to make life a lot easier, but you've got to stick with it. So they do fail because people use them for 3 weeks and go, it's not really giving me anything, I'll dump it and go back to manual. You've got to stick with them and invest some time. Any other questions? There's one. Oh, yeah.
I appreciate Rebecca's position that a lot of your clients do their VAT returns on pieces of paper and such like. We've got a lot of shoebox clients that literally turn up with a shoebox, say, there you go, do me VAT return, and we start from there. What's the typical experience of converting those
Well, you
to
can,
using software?
so you could use something like Receipt Bank or Auto Entry or whatever to take that, and that would be your processing, not an individual. Scan them, take them through.
Right, so people are not typically trying to convert the client.
Yeah,
they're leaving the client to do it.
that
It's not the same as
shoebox-
just converting
Yeah,
themselves.
that shoebox still turns up. The client's just got no idea whether it's somebody just keying that in or whether they're being zapped for the first half an hour and then the software's starting to do the work.
Right, fair enough.
Any others? I've got a little one for you. You've been sort of consulting with a working firm, with firms going through the process, and you've touched on some of the areas. But what's the biggest trouble spot you see recurring?
So the biggest trouble spot is one, not sticking with the systems. We drop it early. The other one is actually the resource. We see like this cloud champion and it's on them, or this 2 or 3 people, and it needs to be firm wide, because everyone's got to be engaging who's got clients in this space, but it tends to get passed across, and this little area, this little percentage, they end up doing the strategy, the individual conversions, the training, looking at all the apps around it. It's a massive role given to a very small resource. So that's the biggest problem that we see.
Have you seen firms who've kind of conquered that? What have they done
So-
to get it, to spread it?
So even some of the firms have they've obviously got the accountant who's understood the cloud and started to train that, but they started to bring in non-accountants. Maybe I call them runners, so chasing around the data, where are we at? So we are starting to see these sort of non-accountants come into this sphere, which are really helpful to the cloud accountants that are trying to do it.
Thank you.
Can I add, Matt, that
Yeah.
a flexible staff resource is really good.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to have people who work 5 days a week to do that sort of thing.
No.
You can pick up people who only want to work 3 afternoons a week because they've got kids or something like that.
Yep.
And they are great because they're absolutely desperate to have good work and they are really good advocates for you.
And all they need is like a mobile phone or
Yeah.
a scanner. They can
Yeah.
do it from wherever.